Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'm probably going to do two more videos and then go to bed. So I'll talk about the Cavs and then talk about the Hawks and then hit the hay. Uh, yeah, the Cavs drafted Isaac Okoro with the 5th pick. But before we talk about that, gotta remind you to like and subscribe. It's my civil duty as a YouTuber to remind you to like and subscribe. So just do it. Helps me out. Makes me feel good to get that support. Makes you feel good because you get to watch my videos. So yeah, works for both of us. Just do it. Without further ado, let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Isaac Okoro, wing, Auburn, versatile defensive player. Very aggressive, but is quick enough to get himself back in position if his risk-taking does not go as planned. Good at creating transition opportunities for his teammates due to his abilities to get blocks and steals. Very good defensive playmaker in that way. On offense, pretty solid slasher. Really good finisher at the rim due to the amount of strength he has. If you've seen his muscles, I mean, this guy is pumping iron for sure. But he's a really good finisher. He's a pretty good shot creator for his teammates, and he can create plays out of those drives that he has. He can attack closeouts at a really high level. So if you've got some primary motion going on and it allows him to get some space and attack that closeout, he's capable of getting to the rim and finishing. And after he attacks that closeout, there's also a chance that he creates an open look on the perimeter for his teammates. So in that way, you know, he's a pretty good player. Defense, he's a really good player. Question is the shooting. And we've seen it time and time again with this type of wing. Kawhi Leonard, yeah, that one went really well. So since then, this type of player archetype has done better than it probably should have. Josh Jackson, Justice Winslow, well, I mean, he's okay, but not great. Stanley Johnson, you know, like it's happened many times where guys have gotten overdrafted because, oh, they're the next Kawhi, super good defensively, have some abilities as an athletic player on the offensive end. Let's turn his jump shot around and we got a star on our hands. Well, it hasn't always worked. I kind of want to bet on Okoro, though. He's super talented. He's apparently a super hard worker, and if he can get that jump shot to work, he's going to be a really good player, and there's a chance that he ends up being like a borderline all-star type guy, maybe a top 50 player in the NBA. And with the 5th pick, that's not a terrible result. When I first saw it, was like, ooh, this is too early. I don't like this. Bad pick by the Cavs. They're going to regret this 5 years from now when he is Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, and he's a defensive specialist who can't get on the court because he can't shoot. But the more I think about it, the more I convince myself, well, what was the alternative? I think the alternative was Obi Toppin, who's maybe the full-on opposite of Okoro. And, you know, he's super strong offensively, but on defense, yeah, not so much. Pretty much you combine Isaac Okoro's defense with Obi Toppin's offense, you got an awesome player, but can't really do that. So I kind of like the idea of going with a defensive player over the offensive-minded guy for this team. They struggled defensively. They were the worst defensive team in the NBA last year, even worse than the Washington Wizards. And their current young core of the Sexland backcourt, Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, neither of those guys is particularly strong defensively, and I would actually say that both of them are negatives on that end. Actually, they're probably two of the worst defensive players in the whole NBA. I think Colin Sexton might be graded as the single worst defensive player in the entire NBA with, like, Trae Young. He's that bad. So adding a wing who can really complement them on that end of the floor could be a solid idea for the Cavaliers. He's also got some playmaking abilities, which, like I said before, could be valuable since both of those two guys are kind of shot first. Garland actually has some potential as a playmaker, but Sexton's really just looking to get his own buckets. I kind of like the fit there, like I said. Okoro's going to help to shadow some of those guys, and he's going to take the more difficult assignment on defense night in and night out. And he said tonight in his post-pick interview that he's not afraid to take on those challenging assignments. So, yeah, the more I talk about it, the more I convince myself that the Cavs didn't do such a bad job here. Okoro does kind of take a spot that Kevin Porter Jr. was occupying for them, but I view Porter as more of a 2, and I get that that probably means he's coming off the bench in relief of Colin Sexton or Isaac Okoro, but I also am not super sure about his future after he was recently arrested. So yeah, Okoro is a really nice player on the wing where he fills a need for them. Porter is decent, but like I said, his future's a bit in question. Jetty Osman is fine. He's nothing super special, though. Dylan Windler, didn't see him this season because of injury, but he's probably going to be a pretty awesome shooter off the bench once he comes back. Alfonso McKinney, yeah, I love the guy because I actually know him, or I don't know him anymore, but I met him at a basketball camp. He was my camp counselor at the UWGB basketball camp when he went to college there. He got to see me hoop it up, but he's really he's not a very good basketball player at this point. Well, he's worked super hard to get to the point he's at in the league, but if he could shoot it, he'd be more intriguing, but he kind of can't, at least not at a high level, so I'm not sure that the Cavs will pick up his non-guaranteed deal for next year. And they do have some solid bigs. They have those solid guards like Garland, like Sexton. They have a solid option as a backup point guard in Dante Exum. At the big man position, they have Kevin Love, Larry Nance, and Andre Drummond, which is the start of a really, really solid big man rotation there. And they also have Jordan Bell on a really cheap non-guaranteed contract, which I really think they should pick up because he's a big man who can give you some energy off the bench and plays really hard, has a great motor, and is also a bit of a versatile defender on the defensive end of the floor with some ability as a lob finisher on offense. So I'd rather see them pick that up and let Tristan Thompson walk because Tristan Thompson's probably going to get paid a pretty penny in free agency, and I don't think that the Cavs are in any position where they should be paying a backup center that much. So I would let Tristan Thompson walk. Matthew Dellavedova is pretty well connected with this franchise at this point, so I think that the most likely scenario with him is they bring him back on the minimum to be their third point guard behind Darius Garland and Dante Exum. Ante Zizic, I don't know how to say his name. Zizic, that's all I know. Zizic, I'm not sure on the first name, but I do think that maybe they're interested in bringing him back, but from what I've heard, he's going to go back to Europe, where apparently he's beloved. So, I mean, I would probably be in a place where I was beloved more than a place where I was a bench warmer also. So, yeah, go ahead. Go back to Europe. Zizic, farewell. Farewell. Some areas of need for this team, I guess. Well, if Kevin Porter's out, they need some help on the wings. Yeah, I'm not sure if they have the full mid-level or not, but if they do, like, Justin Holiday is the name that always comes up in my head. If they don't, someone like, I don't know. Well, Damian Dotson would make some sense as a shooter, could help space the floor for this team. Mo Harkless is a defensive specialist who's pretty much the same as Isaac Okoro right now. Isaac Okoro's floor is probably Mo Harkless. So bring in Isaac Okoro and show him what you don't want to develop into. Might be some nice reverse psychology type moves there. I don't know. But, yeah, overall, I kind of like this pick for the Cavs. Initially, when I thought of it, I was like, oh, this is not a good pick, like I said before, and now I'm coming around to it. Like I said, his ability on defense to guard the best guard/wing on the opposing team is going to be super valuable to this team. And on the offensive end, hopefully he can figure out the jump shot, and if he does, he's probably the best player on this Cavs team and the guy that they are now looking to build around. So, yeah, I like this pick for the Cavs. I think that they did a solid job. I like this better than Obi Toppin. I kind of would have rather seen Deni Avdija due to his ability as a playmaker. I think that would have been perfect for this team, but Okoro can do some of that as well. I'm just a bigger believer in Avdija's shot than I am in Okoro's. But, like, Halliburton I don't think would have been great here with the already two-point guard thing. Killian Hayes wouldn't have been good. Devin Vassell would have been interesting, but this is way an overdraft for Devin Vassell. Way too early for Devin Vassell, and I had like Okoro better, quite frankly. So yeah, I do think I'm okay with this Cavs decision. I'm pretty neutral about it. Like, it's not bad, it's not great. And overall, this is a team in an interesting position. I think the roster's starting to take shape a bit more for me now with just a scoring backcourt and wings who can help that backcourt get stops on the defensive end. They got to figure out the center position. I don't think Andre Drummond is a long-term answer, so maybe this is a team we see draft a center in the top 10 next season. We'll see if they move on from Kevin Love. If they can, hopefully you can get some interesting young assets, but a young core of Darius Garland, Colin Sexton, and Isaac Okoro is starting to get me a little excited. And if Garland and Sexton end up being guys that can play alongside each other, I think that this could be a playoff team in the next 5 years. But the outlook for next season alone is not very good. I'd say they're probably a 30-win team at best and an 18-win team at worst, depending on the health of Andre Drummond and Kevin Love, and also how much those two guys care about being part of this rebuild. So, I think that's about it for me. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment on how you feel about this pick for the Cavs. Do you like Isaac Okoro? Do you not like him? You know, what are your thoughts? That's it for me, like I said, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you all again very soon.